Hello, everybody, and welcome to round 10 of the 2021 GP4 Offline Championship. We're pretty close now to the halfway point of the season. We are here at the famous Silverstone circuit in Northamptonshire for the running of the British Grand Prix. Cue the British bias memes. I am JW97, and I'm joined today by my arch nemesis, Ra.
Yes, hello.
And it's a little bit awkward you're here, Ra, because, well, you're not driving. Your AI is not driving in practice. It's a little bit awkward, but we'll be back in qualifying, that's for sure. But anyway, we've got a dry practice session coming your way, as you can see on your screen. So without further ado, let's get into it. Of course, there are 3 test drivers to talk about. Yes, 3, not 2. But we'll get that changed. Oh yes, my favourite track, absolutely not. Anyway, as I was saying, we have 3 test drivers in the car for today. 2 of them being booked, and the other one being requested. One of them is Adam Chobot. He's the requested one. He's driving in the car in place of Felix Sontar. We have Derebush Daniel, who's in the car for Lamborghini in place of Rahul Patel. And of course, at McLaren, we have Hoang Min Nguyen, who is in place of Kirishima De Rosa. And you may have noticed there's something else with the McLaren as well, because just like with Mercedes last week, they have a special livery for this race, and we'll be seeing it in just a little bit. Right now, we've got some cars coming out onto the racetrack. And who's going to be getting out first? Will it be the McLaren first, or will it be the Lambo that gets out first? It's going to be the McLaren. So, no, in fact, it's Motrin that comes out just before the McLaren. In fact, he's just in front of the McLaren that was coming out there. So, Roland Motrin is the first driver out on track, but just behind is a special liveried McLaren. Where is it? There it is. There is the McLaren. And if we just go to that McLaren just for a brief moment. There it is, and cue the memes for this one. Because it's the team's home Grand Prix, they've got a special livery to commemorate the fact that it is obviously the British Grand Prix with a British flag on the side and the orange colour disappearing for red, really. So just a small tweak, but that is the special livery that they are using for this week's race here at Silverstone. Of course, Nguyen gets to drive it for practice, of course, because it's his book session, but you'll be seeing De Rosa in the car come qualifying, of course. So that's the car in question. Hope you guys, I wonder what you guys think of that, as I'm waiting for the memes right now. But anyway, as that's the special livery. It's only that one, really. Of course, Mercedes have reverted back to their original livery, of course, because you may remember last week they were running a very interesting livery to take a little bit of a jab towards Red Bull, but they've now reverted back to their original livery for the remainder of the season, as that livery was only meant to be a one-off. But Nguyen will be starting his lap soon, but in front we'll be having Roland Motrin, who'll be starting his lap quite soon as well. As in the Aston Martin, as the 2 Alpha Tauris are looking to do some action. The tyres we're using, as you can see on your screen, is the hard tyre, so going to be very interesting to see. I'm hoping that it's not going to be a processional race like we've seen with a few hard tyre races in the past. Usually, because it's Silverstone, we do have some exciting racing, even with the hard tyres, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, of course, obviously, the elephant in the room, of course, is that this past Sunday, the 2022 sign-ups officially opened, of course, and they'll be still open until this Saturday at 10 p.m. BST. So if you haven't signed up yet, you've got until Saturday at 10 p.m. BST. So be aware of that one. But 2 main headlines to talk about during the sign-ups, of course. Ferrari and Haas, of course, will be having different title sponsors in 2022. Haas, whilst they'll still have Deutsche Post in some capacity next season, it will not be their main title sponsor in 2022. And in the case of Ferrari, they will be splitting up with Mission Win Now at the end of the season. So take a good hard look at that Mission Win Now logo while you can, because it will be gone from next season. They'll be having a different title sponsor in 2022. But the other big news that I think a lot of people caught their eye on, we knew about McLaren switching engine supplier thanks to their partnership with BMW, but we also knew, thanks to the sign-ups, that there is another team that has had an engine change, and they are Williams, because after 8 seasons, they will be splitting with Mercedes at the end of this season, and will be switching to Lamborghini engines in 2022, making them the first team outside of the Lamborghini factory team to be supplied by the Italian manufacturer. Now, of course, Lamborghini have had a very good debut season in the top class, and Williams, I think it's fair to say, Ra, will be hoping that they can get a little bit further up the grid with that engine.
Yep, indeed, and of course it does depend on how the engine is going into next season. We don't know how good it can be, but we'll find out later. We'll find out next season.
Indeed so. And so, of course, as well, what I'll also point out as well is that F2 sign-ups, just like last season, will be opening this Saturday as well. So straight after the top class sign-ups close, the F2 sign-ups will officially open at the same time. So just thought I mentioned that. Flo just clarified that in the stream chat. If you want to remain on the grid, or you want to have a chance of trying to get onto the top class grid, you'll need to be quick because you only have until Saturday at 10 p.m. BST. But anyway, with that out of the way, of course, as well, because of it being sign-up season, it will mean that, of course, the GP4 OC News will return next week with a pilot episode, so do look forward to that. But back to everything else that's happening. In fact, one more thing as well. I nearly slipped it out of my mind there. Of course, this Sunday, we also have the 2022 provisional calendar that is going to be revealed as well. Obviously, because I'm the one who edited the video, I obviously know what the provisional calendar looks like. But I'm not telling any of you. You're going to have to wait until Sunday at 7 p.m. BST to find that one out. But anyway, back to now the action. Of course, last time out in Austria, we were talking about Lamborghini a little bit earlier on because, obviously what was I going to say? Obviously, last time out in Austria, you may have noticed as well that, of course, we talked about Lamborghini a little bit earlier on, Rob, because, of course, Laura Chung took Lamborghini's first ever win at the Austrian Grand Prix. You could argue it was handed to her on a silver platter, thanks to what happened to Franco Lopez during the race. But either way, Lamborghini, in only their 9th Grand Prix, managed to get their first ever top-class win. And, well, what an achievement for them.
Wasn't an easy win for Laura Chung because she did get a mechanical problem when she was going to pit anyway, but luckily she made it, and of course she managed to stay ahead of the rest and still win.
Indeed so, and of course, we remember, of course, if anybody's been watching the highlights, that George basically essentially put his neck on the line, saying that Lamborghini would win a race this season, and well, it would have been awkward if they didn't achieve that, but they have achieved that now, so it means that he doesn't really need to hang his head in shame anymore. So, yeah, finally Lamborghini get their first ever victory, and really, at this point, they'll be looking to try and build on that.
Yeah, and of course now with that result, they are ahead of McLaren in the team's championship. Could they potentially catch Ferrari? We'll find out.
We'll see, of course, they did leapfrog McLaren back into 5th in the Constructors' Championship. They have actually got a bit of a comfortable lead in front of them. I think they are over 20 points now ahead of McLaren because of that big points haul they got in Austria, which included, of course, the win from Laura Chung. So they'll be happy to see if they can try and beat Ferrari in the Constructors, although I think it might be a bit of a tough task, but anything could still happen in these remaining 11 races or so. Talking about of course, we'll talk about Red Bull next. Franco Garma getting back onto the podium in 2nd place and revitalizing his championship challenge. Came close to the victory in Austria, but at the end of the day, it's safe to say that Garma finally got some good luck at Austria.
Yep, indeed, and you could say that Red Bull finally actually got some luck in Austria because remember last season they had a double retirement, and I think the season before they had a double retirement, so it wasn't a good track for them at the past. But now they're back to where they were, but even though they're not winning, at least they got a podium.
Indeed so, as I was just quickly reading something there that Yuri brought up on Discord. I'll read it in a little bit. But yes, of course, Garma getting onto the podium last time out at the Red Bull Ring, and now finds himself 7 points behind Amar Khan in the Drivers' Championship as he's desperate to try and get the lead in the championship, of course, in his final season in the top class. As recently, just this past week, of course, he indicated where he was going to be heading in 2022. Now, a lot of people were assuming it was going to be World Champ cars.
Ooh, Griffiths.
Griffiths has made a bit of an error as he spins through Cop's corner. We did see a drive, I think it was Zorbet yesterday, spin at Cop's corner yesterday during the World Champ car race, but on this occasion, Griffiths wasn't as dramatic there, but clearly pushing the limits there a bit, Ra.
Yeah, indeed, we're pretty much going to expect more of these in qualifying. It will depend. We see some, but of course, it's pretty much an example to look out for in qualifying.
Indeed so. Now, I've been reading a little bit because Yuri's indicated to us on Discord that there was something that a lot of us, I think pretty much everyone, didn't notice in the pinned comment, mainly on the bit where it talked about the team trend. Now, of course, we mentioned to read the team trend, of course, in the sign-up video because it gave a bit of an indication of where the team could be heading in 2022. It doesn't necessarily mean where they'll be in the pick order. It's just where their rate of progression is going to be compared to 2021 and 2022. But underneath it, sneakily from Yuri, in fact, he's also announced on here that there are some minor regulation changes to the cars next season. Of course, the shape of the cars is not changing. We'll clarify that one for starters. But there are some minor changes in terms into the physics file, really. And basically what these regulation changes include is that there is going to be a minor change in the aero regulations, which will make the cars become slightly more draggy, which will mean lowering the straight line speed a bit, and which in turn will increase the slipstream, basically, of the cars. But also as well, he's also going to be lowering the rear tyre grip, which will make cars oversteer slightly more and make the rear end slip off more easily when making a mistake. So we're looking at maybe some tricky cars that are being drove next season.
Yep, indeed, and it's pretty much whoever does well with these cars pretty much deserves the championship going into next season.
A bit more driver skill is going to be
Yeah.
needed. And Yuri has indicated that there could be these minor changes that could happen every season, just to make it a little bit spicier from season to season, of course. But they are the minor changes that are happening. Of course, we'll give you a reminder. Of course, they're going to be more draggy next season. It's fair to say. The cars will be more draggy next season, which should mean an increase in slipstream. And of course, the rear tyres will be a little bit less grippy, which means it'll be a little bit more oversteery. And as Ra puts a little gif in our little chat saying, "Let me add a little bit of spice to that." Basically, a Chris Eubank meme. But anyway, back to the action, of course, and we were talking about Austria, of course. Obviously, last time out as well, we were talking about Franco Lopez a little bit, Ra, because whilst Chung won the race at Austria, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people believe that Lopez should have won the race in Austria because he obviously got a flying start from the front row of the grid to take the lead, and it looked like he was not going to be touched for the remainder of the season, the remainder of the race, I should say. But unfortunately, because of what happened with the Renaults towards the back of the field at one particular corner, where, of course, Evan Byrne had his mechanical failure, and then Jesus Perinen had his crash from the invisible debris, it meant that Lopez collected some debris from Jesus Perinen's car, which meant in turn that he lost his front wing, and with that cost him the victory. And so far, Lopez has still yet to get off the winning mark this season, Ra, as a result.
Yeah, I mean, he has been struggling this season, but he is trying to pick up his form. I mean, he could have won at Austria, as you said, but will he be able to win at Silverstone? Maybe, but we will have to wait and see.
Indeed so, and just a reference, I will be putting up that little technical regulation change on Twitter a little bit later on, well, mainly after qualifying, I think, because obviously I'm in the middle of commentary at the moment. But anyway, that was that really for Franco Lopez. I'll be hoping he can try and win here at Silverstone, a place which he won at, of course, back in 2019, of course. Last season, it was a battle between Carr and Lopez for the victory, which Carr just won to take victory at his home race. And he'll be looking to see if he can get another good result and hopefully try increase his lead at the top now. It's down to 7 points in the championship. But whilst we're on the topic of Renault, of course, one thing that was very interesting about the sign-ups is that Evan Byrne announced after the Austrian Grand Prix, after so much frustration, he was going to be leaving the team at the end of the season. He's made it quite clear in his sign-up choices that he will not be going to Renault at all in any capacity. So we talked about how there was a vacant seat at Red Bull, Ra. It looks like now there's a vacant seat at Renault.
I mean, pretty much anyone can get that seat, but you never know. No, with the sign-ups. I mean, we could have both seats available, but we'll have to wait and see. It will depend if Jesus Credit does stay at Renault.
Of course, Jesus is still yet to sign up yet in the sign-up video, but I believe he is aware, judging from Discord. I think he's just, like with a few drivers, just waiting to see what everybody else does, essentially. We know that a few drivers do tend to do that during this sign-up period, so don't be surprised if some of the drivers who are currently in the 2021 grid haven't signed up just yet. They're obviously thinking tactically about it at this point in time, especially with the pick order as well, which has also had a little bit of a tweak, I should point out as well, and I'll also point it out again in the pilot episode, that rookie drivers, aka drivers who have never taken part in any series of the OC, so whether that be obviously the top class, F2, DTM, FE, World Champ Car, the Entrance Series, and even the now defunct BTCC series, and also the Indy 500, if they've never taken part in any of those series or races at all, they will not be eligible towards the pick order. They'll be eligible for the sign-ups in case of the rare occasion where they're the only choices left to go for the seat, but in terms of the actual pick order, they will not count towards it. It's been a change that I think a lot of people have been hoping, as I think a few people have been said has been overdue in the OC, but it is actually finally happening in this instance. So I just thought I would point that one out. And so it will be interesting to see what happens. As meanwhile, Roach now goes to the top of the timing sheet. It's now a Red Bull 1-2 at this point in time. Roach just under a tenth quicker than Franco Garber. Nguyen Minh Quan in the McLaren, currently in 5th position now, getting up.
Did you just say Quan?
Hoang Minh Nguyen, I should say. I'm not the only one who's had it confused this season, Ra. So don't think I'm the odd one out. So
yeah.
Anyway, as Roman, I'm trying to remember who else confused it, because there was a commentator that actually did confuse him at one point. I think it might have been F2 if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, whoa, Gal has a little bit of a moment going through into Beckett's there. Luckily, it wasn't too dramatic there, as he's still stuck behind his teammate David Kupak at this point in time. But I might as well ask your opinions, Ra. Are you at all surprised about Byrne leaving Renault at the end of the season, or do you think it was pretty much building and building?
Pretty much not surprised, and of course it has been building and building all the time, where he's been not getting the luck that he deserves, and of course strategy, everything really not going his way. And I mean, we saw it last season, and we're pretty much seeing it this season, but with him at Renault, and it's really not worked out.
Oh, definitely not, and he's hoping to move teams for next season. It'll be very interesting to see which team he ends up going. I mean, he has put his initial choices in the sign-ups, but he could change them, because you can edit them until Saturday, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. It all really depends on what everybody else does, but it will be interesting to see where Evan could potentially end up in 2022, and that will be something to really keep an eye on as well. As now we look at George Roach, who's heading into the pits this lap and currently getting held up by Franco Gamba as he makes his way through into the section of corners. We might as well talk about Ferrari a little bit, because we haven't really talked about them too much in this stream, apart from the fact that they'll be having a new title sponsor in 2022. Jake Galloway last time out in Austria, bit of a costly error for him last time out. He was looking certain at a top four finish, maybe a podium at a push, but he made quite a clumsy error at the second to last corner, and as a result only finished high as 7th, really. Yeah, really costing a big handful of points there, Ra.
Yep, indeed. And I mean, it's not what he wants, but of course they are comfortable they have a comfortable gap to Lamborghini. Of course, when it gets to the long run, it's not what they really want, as it's very close between the Red Bulls, but Rogue comes into the pits. But I mean, going into Chris Chatford, it's more of a what if, as we all have been saying.
Yeah, because it seemed like he might have got a little bit caught up with the strategy a little bit, and seemed to have a bit of trouble when it came to the traffic as well, because throughout the entirety, well, I think after his final pit stop, as Nguyen goes up into second place, but back to what I was saying there, Chatfield was looking like he was in contention for points, but for most of, I think after the last stop, he was just stuck behind Joseph Willows, who was on a one stop, and he did initially pass Joseph Willows, let's not forget. He did originally pass him after Willows went wide at the second to last corner, but Willows straight away got into his slipstream and basically overtook him into the first turn. He was a little bit frustrated with that, it's fair to say, and well, it's just been again, as we've just said, a what-if season for Chris, really. He's just been at the back end of bad luck so far this season, it's fair to say, for most of the season.
Yep, indeed. I mean, he got caught up by a tactical error from Joseph Willows.
Yeah, well, a tactical error, you're saying there, right?
I'm calling it a tactical error. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what you're implying there, but anyway, so we look at Jamie Griffiths now, then, who's coming out of Turn 5, and Griffiths has been, it's fair to say, the last few races, well, I think we've talked about it a few times, he's been a little bit under the radar this season, it's fair to say. There's a bit of a lock-up there for Franco Gamba as he's stuck behind one of the McLarens. But, yeah, he has been a little bit under the radar this season, and it seems like the last few races, it just seems like Sontag has just had the edge on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of quiet races. I mean, it's not what he wants. He really wants to be where Felix is and try and fight for points, but it's not going his way. I mean, yeah, he did score. He did start off with points. I mean, early on in the season, I think it was in Hockenheim, but yeah, I mean, since then, it hasn't worked out for him.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, on the topic of Felix Sontag, of course, he finally scored his first points of the season at the Austrian Grand Prix, but also at the same time, Amelia Wilson scored her first points of the season as well in Austria after what had been quite a. It's been a case of showing good pace, but just struggling to get on into the points, really, as Willows and I think that was Garmer there, who were having a bit of a ding-dong through into Kops, Maggots and Beckett's there. But yeah, finally, the pair of them scoring points, and now that just leaves Andrea Vaderi, the only driver, to score points this season after what has been so far a very tricky season for the Italian.
Seems like he's the imposter among us, but on all seriousness, he's not the best this season. Some down to his fault, some not. I mean, he has been unlucky at some points where he could have gotten points, but he didn't. But yeah, of course, still a long way to go. He's just got to hope he can get up for a streak of points, hopefully, for him to save his career.
Indeed so, and whether he will or not, it remains to be seen, because I've noticed so far in the sign-up video that somebody has actually put Alfa Romeo as their first choice, which could become a bit of a threat. You'll probably hear about that in the pilot episode if that person in particular keeps that decision, but we'll have to wait and see on that. As Franco Gamba now then comes around Luffield now then, as he's finally cleared the McLaren of Joseph Willows, who was stuck behind for quite a while. That's why the pair of them had a little bit of a side-by-side moment, going through into Kops, Maggots and Beckett, as we have just over 19 minutes to go in this practice session. So this is what the leaderboard currently looks like then. It is Roach at the top with McLaren test driver Hoang Min Nguyen in second. Then it is Franco Gamba in third, with Laura Chung fourth, Chris Chatfield fifth, Jesus Perinen in sixth, followed by Jake Galloway seventh, Joseph Willows in eighth, followed by Dore Bosch Daniel, the Lamborghini test driver, in 9th. Franco Lopez is in 10th, with Daniel Fraser 11th, Armar Carr 12th, Evan Byrne 13th, Amelia Wilson in 14th, with Andre Vaderi 15th, Roland Motrin in 16th, followed by Roman Quarg in 17th. There is Jamie Griffiths 18th, Julius Anderson in 19th, with Mikael Oskau 20th, the Williams test driver, Adam Chobot in 21st, and David Cupart currently in 22nd and last. So that's how it currently looks at the moment on the leaderboard, as we have still just over 18 minutes to go. Gallen across the line, no improvement, he stays in third so far. Nguyen still splitting the two Red Bulls at this point in time, as McLaren look to do well at their home Grand Prix. In fact, for some of the teams it's their home Grand Prix, and for some of the drivers it's their home Grand Prix as well. And they'll be able to put on a show in front of the British crowd here at Silverstone, as Garber now then makes his way through towards the Wellington Straight, as he's currently on another lap, as he's still not got the pit indicator on his def panel just yet, as Garber makes his way through into Brooklands then, and then into Luffield now then he will go. He tries to gain onto the Alfa Romeo just in front there. So trying to think of another thing that I wanted to talk about, but I'm trying to remember. I think it's fair to say, in fact, if we're talking about the 2022 sign-offs, one thing that I'm surprised not many people have talked about is Chatfield, meanwhile, now goes to the top of the timing sheets Ferrari. There were many people who were hoping that AlphaTauri would be rebranded for the 2022 season, but as we saw, AlphaTauri are sticking around in 2022. They're not having any rebrand or any takeover or being booted out and being replaced by another team whatsoever. Are you a bit surprised by that, Rob? Because there was a bit of discussion about it.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, yes, mainly because they haven't had the best of seasons. They would have wanted a rebrand, but I mean, being looking at what they could become next season, it could go well, but now no, mainly because I mean they did rebrand from Toro Rosso back in 2020, and it didn't really seem any point rebranding them after just 2 seasons as AlphaTauri.
Perhaps, but then again, if you look at real life, it looks like we're going to have 2 years of Sauber before Audi. But you never know, of course. Well, obviously, you know, it could have been one of those situations. But at the end of the day, AlphaTauri are sticking around on the grid in 2022, unlike what a lot of people on Discord, at least, were thinking at the time. But anyway, that's that really. As George Roach now then approaches Brooklands now then, while the home favourites and looking to put on a show in front of his home crowd. The second time he's driven a Red Bull here at Silverstone as Chatfield further improves to the 1 minute 27.365 in the Ferrari to go 1/10 clear now of George Roach, as Anderson currently holding up one of the Mercedes there, doesn't improve and stays in 19th. Of course, this is where for Aston Martin it's more of a home race for them because they're literally just off of their factory is just out of the back of Luffield, really. They're just right next to the circuit, really. So this is pretty much a home advantage for them. But for so far for Aston Martin, it's not really been the best of seasons. I mean, Roland and Julius have done pretty much all they can, really, with the car they've got, hence why they're 7th in the Constructors. But as we've seen throughout the season, Ra, it's not really gone the way they were hoping.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, knowing the fact that when they were at Racing Point, they were like the third. They finished like third in the constructors, and of course, being down there in 7th is a step down. But of course, knowing the pecking order, it has been close. I mean, you never know what can happen, but yeah, it's not gone well, and I don't see them making that much progress. But of course, Anderson has done well. He is 12th in the championship. Don't forget, so pretty much kind of like best of the.
Who,
Would I say mid pack or just back of it?
what in terms of Aston Martin? I would say they're in the midfield. I would say I think they're pretty much in the midfield. It's safe to say, given them in 7th. But I'd argue. I think we've been saying all season already. We know that the Alfa Romeo, we believe, appears to have a faster car than the Aston Martin. But we'll go on to the topic of Alfa Romeo. Even though they seem to have the faster car, it's been inconsistency that's let them down, and they've only had one driver so far score points for them, and that's been Roman Quark, who of course was having another strong race at Spielberg before his engine decided to let go. But yeah, I would say I think if you had to say which team has been underachieving this season, Ra, you'd have to put Alfa Romeo in that conversation.
Yeah, and of course it's not been the best of seasons. Of course, they've had some high moments with Clark, but some low moments where he had some mechanical problems, and of course with Derry not having the best of seasons.
Yeah, indeed, and they'll be hoping that they can at least try and salvage something for the remainder of the season and hopefully turn it around in 2022, of course. I know it said 23 there, but it's 2022, of course. We're not in real life. We're still in the 2021 season. But anyway, just over 13 minutes to go now in this practice session before we get onto the qualifying session, which will determine the grid for tomorrow's British Grand Prix. I mentioned yesterday as well, it's kind of a big week for Silverstone in terms of the OC, because of course yesterday we had the World Champ Car race, which Bruno de Barros won, and saw Bartosz Klos have a bit of as Yuri put it, a bit of a bottle job moment where he was leading the race quite comfortably and then spun at Stowe Corner. Obviously, we have the F2 action here as well. Of course, we have the Top Class here. And, of course, we have the Entrance Series happening here tomorrow as well, with, we believe, a shorter race distance than what we had at Spielberg, just to avoid the high chance of... Okay, 25%, you was just clarified to me there. It has been reduced from, I think it was 35% originally to 25%. So if I'm going a little bit nostalgic here, that's actually the same distance that I used when I was doing IFMC for the F3 series, specifically for the race 2 race. Basically, I was using 25%, I think it was, or was I using that for race 1? It's been so long, I can't actually remember. You can tell it's been 4 years since I actually hosted that series, and obviously I have no plans to or no desire to do that ever again, because it was quite draining, if I'm being totally honest. But anyway, that's kind of that really, but that's for nostalgia. So yeah, it's gone down from 35% to 25%, and that's to try and avoid the chance of it basically crossing over into the top class race here at Silverstone. Of course, we do know that one of the drivers, I'm yet to put it on Twitter in fact, but we did know, of course, via Discord, that one of the drivers who is taking part in the entrance series will not be signing up for 2022 due to other commitments that are going on outside of his life. That driver, of course, being Nathan Ormond. So I do wish him all the very best after the 2022 season, because I know he's moving back into, I think it's either college or university over there. So and he's obviously wanted to focus on that. So best of luck to you, Nathan, and hope to see you again in the future after 2022. But anyway, Jake Galloway now then coming around Woodcote, and he's currently stuck in a bit of a traffic jam here, which has also got Joseph Willows here, and looks like Willows is trying to recreate. Is trying to I'd rather not go into that, Evan. To be honest with you, I'll let Ra do it though, because I'm part of the sign-up process, and I'd rather not say anything in case I give anything away too much. But Ra, a question from Evan really. He has said, and I put, have you got any early sign-up positions? He's put in brackets, I think as a joke, Mercedes retaining does not count. So have you got any predictions of what you might expect so far at this early stage of the sign-ups?
No, not really.
Sorry, Evan, we've had boring answers here. I know you probably wanted detailed answers, but yeah, I think it's fair to say, I think if you come back to us maybe once the pilot episode breaks next week, I think maybe Ra could have maybe a better answer, I guess. But I think at this stage,
I have an answer. Julius to Renault.
Oh, that joke. If anybody remembers that meme on Discord that has been going on for a few seasons now. Who knows, really? Maybe that meme could get revived this season. Who knows? But anyway, because it wasn't really a thing last season because Julius didn't put Renault in his choices. But who knows? Maybe it could get revived this season. Depends on what happens by the end of when the sign-ups close. Of course, as I get my words a bit twisted there. Just saw there that Jamie Griffiths has a bit of a lock-up going through into turn 3 there, which is Farm Corner. So that wouldn't have done his tyre life any good whatsoever. As a result, finding himself 6 attempts down in the first sector. Nguyen, meanwhile, goes up into second place now, so slots in behind Chatfield, who just a little bit earlier on, whilst we were talking, managed to improve to a 1 minute 27.315. So we've seen some improvements there. Perrin improves, but remains in 6th position so far. The Renault is currently in 6th and 13th at the moment at this point in time, as Derebush Daniel improves, but remains in 11th position, still behind Joseph Willows at this point, as Griffiths makes his way through into Beckett's now then, before heading down towards Chapel. Before now, heading down the Hanger Straight, 1.4 seconds off in the middle sector. As he now makes his way, as my voice decided to break there, as he now makes his way through into Stowe Corner, before making his way towards the final 3 turns on the racetrack now, then flicking it in for the left, then through the final 2 corners on the racetrack, and he'll be crossing the line quite soon, as Carr meanwhile improves but only gains 1 place and only goes up into 8th position. As we look at Chatfield, he's just come back out to the racetrack, currently holding up one of the Renault drivers there. Not sure which Renault that is he's holding up. Let's see if I can see it on the number there, but I can't quite see. I think it might be, no, it's actually Hayes' Prin. I was about to say Van Burn, but it's Hayes' Prin who's trying to go around the outside. Chatfield going into Stowe Corner. Will he pull the move off? We have seen it in the past, this sort of overtake, and Perrin does actually pull the move off. He's probably getting in some early practice for that sort of overtake come the race tomorrow. As Min further improves, Hoang Min Nguyen further improves to now find himself 79 thousandths behind Chatfield in 2nd position, as Perrin does not improve and stays in safe. I wasn't expecting him to improve anyway because he got held up by Chatfield and of course had to overtake him around the outside at Stowe Corner there. Bush Daniel meanwhile gets his Lamborghini into the top 10 now, so he moves up into 10th, pushes Willows down into 11th position. So that's how that currently stands at the moment as Perinin now then makes his way down Wellington Straight before approaching Brooklands. And of course we'll talk about a topic that we were talking about earlier as Chong slightly improves to go. In fact, no, it does improve. She goes up into 6th, gains a place there, pushes Perinin down to 7th. We talked about earlier that of course we have the provisional calendar reveal that is getting revealed this coming week on Sunday as Carr goes up into 6th now as I speak. Again, it seems to be improvements every time I speak. But obviously, I think the one question that I think people will be wondering, and I mentioned this yesterday during the World Champ Car stream, is whether or not the Monaco Grand Prix will be on the calendar or not. Because as we know, it had its cornerstone status removed after the Monaco Grand Prix, which meant that it could get booted off in the same way that all the other tracks would, outside of course, Silverstone, which is where we are today, Spa, and, of course, Monza. So I think I asked this to you a couple of weeks ago, Ra, and I think you said that you believed that Monaco would stay. Are you keeping hold of that opinion, or do you think your opinion has kind of swayed a little bit since then?
I believe it has stayed for now.
Now, at least. You're going with the for now bit. Okay, fair enough.
For now.
Okay, Perinin has gone into 4th position meanwhile, just as we were talking about that. So he's moved up from 7th to 4th now, and is now just 600ths off of George Roach, who currently is in the pit lane in 3rd position. And in fact, speaking of pits, Perinin is actually coming into the pits this lap. Just over 5 minutes to go now then in this practice session, and this is what the leaderboard now looks like then. It is Chatfield at the top with Nguyen in 2nd, then it is Roach 3rd, Perinin 4th, Lopez in 5th, followed by Gamba in 6th, then it is Chung 7th, Carr in 8th, Galloway in 9th, followed by Daniel in 10th, Willows 11th, followed by Fraser 12th, Byrne in 13th, then it is Wilson 14th, Videri in 15th, followed by Quag in 16th, Motrin in 17th, then Griffiths 18th, Anderson 19th, Gall in 20th, Chobart in 21st, and Kupak in 22nd and last at this point in time. The pack separated by 1.9 seconds at the moment in this session, just under 2 seconds, so that's usually bigger than what we've seen in previous races. I would expect it to be quite a bit bigger compared to Austria, given how short the Red Bull Ring is, of course. Obviously the shortest track in terms of lap time, as Perinin now makes his way into the pit lane, meaning that there will be 2 cars in the pit lane, he and Jake Galloway, who of course had a sort of battle for the win in France, but Perinin, it seemed that Galloway was too superior on that free stop compared to Perinin, who was on the 2, and for that race, of course, Perinin was having to battle a bit with George Roach. To this day, Roach believes he would have got 2nd place had he not been held up by a certain back marker. I can't think of who he is, but in that race, he believes he could have done, as meanwhile Daniel sets exactly the same time now as Jake Galloway. So both Galloway and Daniel have set the same lap time, but Galloway of course ahead of Daniel because he set the time first. So that's that, as Perinin now back into the garage. I don't know why we're still viewing him. I think the auto camera is a little bit attracted with Perinin's car, it's fair to say, even though he is in the garage, although I do think we are going to get it switched soon because of the usual auto camera when somebody has been in the garage. There you go. Kupak is across the line. He does not improve and he stays in 22nd position, still just under 2 seconds off of former teammate Chris Chatfield, who's currently at the top of the timing sheets now then, and Chatfield looking to do well in his home race as well. And of course this is also his teammate's home race as well, and Jake Galloway will be hoping he can get himself a little bit further into the race than what he did last season, of course, because you may remember at the start of the race last season, Jake Galloway and Joseph Willows made contact with each other and caused quite a big crash at Beckett's, really, taking both of each other out of the race. I think in the end Willows ended up getting a grid penalty for that because he was the one who was blamed for that accident, and so he'll be hoping he can get a little bit further forward. Same for Willows, really, as long as he keeps out of trouble, really, on the first lap.
Stay away from me.
Basically. But obviously, it's actually triggered my mind, actually, about how you mentioned that, because you had something heartbreaking happen to you at this race a couple of seasons ago in GP2, didn't you?
Yes.
I'm hoping I didn't mention it, did you?
I mean, I already know what it is. of course, it's very clear. Been refreshed, and of course, we all know what happened the following year.
Yes, and yes, of course. Obviously, if you don't know, of course, a couple of seasons ago, back in GP2, Rahul Patel was running in a comfortable third position, but obviously he had an engine failure, and
There's a puncture.
It was some kind of failure anyway. But it kind of led to a bit of a streak of poor. It kind of led to a poor run after that, really, didn't it, Ra?
Yes, it really did.
At least you were able to bounce back in 2020, though, and be able to be on the top class grid in 2021. So, I guess there's that. So, anyway, we saw some more improvements there as Byrne went up into 12th position. I think somebody towards the back of the field was able to improve as well, as I saw there, but I couldn't quite see who it was, as well as having to fend off at the moment. There is actually a train of cars starting to form through into the Luffield corner, but I think we're going to remain on board with the drivers for the remainder of the 2 minutes because they are getting close towards the end of the session now then, as Daniel Fraser makes his way around the final corner and onto the pit straight. Across the line he will go, and he does not improve. He stays in 13th position. Chatfield, I think that was, what was that, Galloway? No, it was Chatfield. Chatfield did not improve, says on 1 minute 27.315. Garber, no improvement. Daniel, no improvement, as we now look at Julius Anderson in the Aston Martin as he makes his way through into Stowe corner. Now making his way down towards the final 3 turns, flicking it in through the left and then into the final 2 turns on the racetrack. Now then into the final corner and onto the pit straight goes Anderson, and across the line he will go, and no improvement there. He stays where he is. Perinin getting one more lap in before the session comes to a close, as here comes Roland Motrin. Across the line he will go in the Aston Martin, and no improvement for him, stays where he is. Cupok, across the line he will go, and he improves but remains in 22nd, now 1.8 off of Chatfield, as both Carr and Willows unable to improve. Lopez around the final turn in the Mercedes, looking for redemption from Austria, does not improve and stays in 5th position. Here comes Adam Chobot in the Williams, just coming out of the final turn, and onto the pit straight he will go. And no, in fact, he does find an improvement. He found some time in the last sector, but remains in 21st. As Byrne goes up into 11th position. Roach stays where he is, which is P3. As we now look at Jamie Griffiths in the Williams, as he just rounds the final turn. Onto the pit straight he will go, and no improvement. He stays where he is for the moment. As Fraser now then comes around Stowe corner now, then making his way down towards the final 3 turns on the racetrack now, then flicking it in for the left. And then into the final 2 turns goes Daniel Fraser. This is, will he be doing one more lap after this? We'll see, as he now comes across the line, and no improvement, stays where he is. Chatfield across the line, and no improvement for him, as Garber's practice session has come to a close, as he's now come back into the pit. Daniel across the line, stays where he is, no improvement for the Hungarian. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Checkered flag is out, and that is the end of the session. Derebush Daniel was the last car to cross the line there then, so he'll be the last to cross the line. Perinin, across the line he will go, no improvement, he stays where he is. Here comes Roland Motrin in the Aston Martin, just coming around the final turn and onto the pit straight. He will now go, across the line will go the Hungarian, no improvement, he stays where he is. David Cupok, across the line he will go, and he stays in last. Car doesn't improve, in fact he got held up there by David Cupok. Franco Lopez, across the line he will go in the Mercedes, no improvement, he stays where he is. Laura Chung just getting some mileage in the Lamborghini, of course, the driver who won last time out, of course, at the Austrian Grand Prix. As Adam Chobot across the line, no improvement, stays in 21st. Here comes George Roke across the line. Can he improve on his 3rd position? No, he can't. As we look at Griffiths now then in the Williams, around the final turn and onto the pit straight he will go. Across the line goes Griffiths, and no improvement, stays where he is. Nguyen stays in 2nd. Been a good session for the McLaren test drive, it's fair to say, and obviously getting prepared, because of course he'll be starting on the front row of the grid for the F2 race later on tonight at 7 PM BST, so be aware of that one. But anyway, Fraser now then around the final turn in the Haas, coming down the pit straight. Across the line he will go, and he stays in 13th. Chris Chatfield, across the line he will go, and he stays where he is, as Galloway gets some mileage in. As we just, in fact, Derebush Daniel's coming to the pits, and that's the session done with Chris Chatfield top, Hoa Min Nguyen in 2nd, and George Roke in 3rd. So what do you make of that session, Ra?
Pretty much an interesting session, but of course we'll have to wait. We'll see what everyone can do in qualifying. That's the main event.
Indeed so. Well, we're just going to quickly turn off the stream for a moment. We'll come back for a fresh stream for the qualifying session. But in the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Raw, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a bit.